Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us on another episode of Yecca, where we cover culture, conspiracy, carnivore, and Christ consciousness. Today, I have with me Hannah Lay, who's also known as Lady Line Cook on Instagram. She has a lot of hilarious kitchen memes and even has her own book. And if you have ever worked in kitchens at any time in your life, you will totally relate to her posts. They're so on point. Thanks for joining me, Hannah Lay. I'm so excited.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So would you let people know just kind of how you got started working in kitchens?
So I've been in kitchens for about 5 years now, but I cooked since I was a little kid, so that's kind of how I got started. Um, Always cooking. My parents cooked a lot, both of them, and I was like 12 years old, and I started taking over family dinners and doing all that. And then, but I didn't want to be a chef. I didn't. I don't know. No one ever suggested that that was like a good career path. So I went to school for like business, and then ended up doing like ski business, resort management, and then worked in the ski industry for 2 years, which I really enjoyed. It was really awesome. I was working on the mountain, and then I moved to a ski town to snowboard every day, living the dream. But I needed a summer job because it was just a winter job, even though I enjoyed it a lot and made it to supervisor and all that stuff. So then I ended up, I was like, well, I like cooking. Let me just see if I can get a summer job in a kitchen. So I got hired on the spot at this teeny tiny like mom and pop place with no experience, nothing. And I ended up really liking that. And then I was like, I'll just stay in the kitchen. It's a year round job, full time year round. When you're in a ski town, it's like having that. And now salaried job is like pretty much you've hit the jackpot if you have work all year round. So the kitchen it is.
Right? Yeah, for sure. So
Yeah.
that's really cool. So you have a lot of like manager and still customer service experience before going into the kitchen. So I'm sure that helped a lot to, get you to where you are now as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Like that ski resort job 100% prepared me for the kitchen. Like, first of all, it was 30 men and me, which the kitchen is like that too. I didn't realize that going into the kitchen, which is kind of funny. And I had to lead, like I was their supervisor, and I had to learn how to not only lead people, but lead as like a 21-year-old woman in this job with like all men and, physical labor outdoors in all conditions. Like, and that really molded me into the cook and chef that I became. So definitely, not all experience has to be kitchen experience to be useful in your career.
Yes, for sure. There's definitely a lot more than just cooking, running a kitchen.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Cooking, I would say, is like the fun part of running a
That's
kitchen.
like, yeah, the deeper I get into the whole kitchen management thing, like sadly, the less you cook, like not that I don't, but it becomes like something that's so second nature, and it's like everything else that's so hard.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and I think that's something that a lot of people don't realize that want to start like any kind of food business. They have like this amazing food idea and like their food tastes delicious, but that's like not really, would you agree that that's not really like one of the most important things in running a food business? Like there's
Yeah, it's
so many
not like,
more things. Yeah.
even if you wanted to start your own business, like, and I don't own my own business, but during the pandemic, I actually did that.
Oh,
I
nice.
ended up cooking food out of my own kitchen and selling these like to-go meals to my friends and family and church friends, and it eventually became like friends of friends and neighbors, and I ended up making like pretty much the same paycheck that I was getting because unemployment was like a joke and it took months to come in, and so I was like, well, I don't have a choice. Like I'm cooking food out of my own kitchen. Like,
Right.
so that I feel like that was a really cool experience though. Like, because I feel like my cooking skill was there. Like I knew how to cook and all that, but it was the whole like learning how to market yourself and how to like create, get people talking about your food. And like obviously the food had to be good, yes, but like I learned other things too, like, oh, when do you send something out when you know that there's something about it that's slightly not right? Like, oh, there's this one that was like, it was a little bit too salty, but I was like, I don't know what to do to fix it. Like, and I just did it out. And then of course, like the feedback was like, hey, I really loved all your food, except there was this one dish. It was like really salty. Like, and you kind of learn like you can't hide your mistakes in the kitchen. Like, I feel like that's something that I really learned there. It's like where it's I feel like there's a lot of jobs, like you're sitting in an office, you're sending your emails all day. You can kind of fake it till you make it, but in the kitchen, it's like if you make a mistake, they're gonna find out. Like you can't hide it. You can't pretend that like you didn't make that mistake. I don't know what they're doing out there. I'm on my live. I'm on my live. I told you at 11. It's really loud in there. Can you do something else? Can you please do it?
Welcome back.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's so true. That does require more than just, being able to make good food, and it is hard to hide some of those mistakes. But I feel like there are some, maybe not like in the sense like where probably you work, where everything is like pretty consistent, but like as far as home cooking stuff, I feel like maybe just because I'm like a harder critic on myself, but sometimes I think like, oh, this isn't that great, but then I go and like serve it and people are like, oh my gosh, this is so amazing, because people just are used to just regular food like from the grocery
Yeah.
store
No,
and
I
stuff like
feel that
that.
too. Like even sometimes like when I'm cooking something and you're tasting it the whole way through and you just kind of get sick of that thing and then you serve it and everyone's like, this is amazing. And I'm like, really?
Right.
It's all right. Because you were there the
Yeah.
whole process. Like you're just like so done with it.
Right. Yeah. No. So I have a couple questions regarding, and I don't know if you've noticed anything like this or even looked, but because I haven't worked in a daily kitchen in a couple years now, and I know a lot of things have changed in the as far as like what kind of food is available to us the past couple years. And I was wondering if you've ever noticed labels on the ingredients list of the products you get in the kitchen, because I know you like check orders and stuff,
Yeah.
saying stuff like contains bioengineered ingredients at the bottom of the ingredients list, because I've been noticing that on the stuff like at the grocery stores. So I'm just curious if that's coming in through like the wholesale product side as well.
I have never noticed that, but I mean, we're almost a from scratch kitchen, so we're not buying these like pre-made anything really. But I feel like I'm going to start paying attention to it now. But I would say
Yeah.
about labeling is definitely something that you have to pay attention to. Like, for example, like this literally just happened where I know these are both garbage for you, but we used to buy like a canola oil blend for the restaurant. It's the cheapest one.
Right. Yeah.
No one's really asking us what kind of oil we use. So we would get
Right.
this like
Yeah.
canola oil blend, but it was like blended with extra virgin olive oil. And
Hmm.
then like I was using that same oil from the same company like the whole time I worked there, and I would place the orders, and I was the one ordering this. And then one day, one of the managers comes up to me, is like, "Hey, we have a soybean allergy. Can you check the oil that we use to make sure it's not soybean?" I was like, "Well, I know it's canola oil. I order it. Like, I order the same product every time." But I was like, when it's a bad allergy, I go and double check just in case. And they had changed it to soybean oil, like, and the
Oh my
packaging was the
gosh.
same, the label was the same. Like the only difference was instead of it used to say like canola blend, it said vegetable oil blend. And then you had to look, and in fine small print at the bottom, it said soybean oil. And I was like, when
Oh
did they
my
change that?
gosh.
I was like,
That's crazy.
I was literally about to serve it to this person because I ordered the same oil like every single time. And it was like, I was like, when did this change? They didn't tell me that they changed this. Like,
Yeah. And
that,
that's crazy
and
because soy
then,
is like
yeah,
a top allergen too.
yeah. And then another thing that I noticed like really early on is we used to, this was at like a previous restaurant where I worked, but it was like, it said in very big lettering, extra virgin olive oil, right? And then in really small print, blend. And then you look on the back and it's like 90% canola at 10% extra virgin. And it's
Oh
just
my
like
gosh.
those are the things, and it's like I pay attention to that stuff, but I feel like if you're just at the store like trying to be healthy and don't really know anything, like yeah, you're gonna pick up that bottle that says like extra virgin olive oil in big letters, and like you're not, you have to check labels. Like it's like almost criminal what they do. Like it's like it's not even sneaky. It's like they're blatantly hiding that stuff.
Yeah, for sure. They use like word magic, like the
Yeah,
blend. People don't really think, they just see the big olive oil, on
yeah,
this on the bottle, and then like the blend is so small, and so they use like little trickery with their words on the labeling like that. I've noticed that the past several years. Like, and now
oh
I can
yeah,
just like see what something's called, and I'm like, oh, that has some trash
yeah.
mixed in there with it.
It's
Like,
like health washing. Like you have to, yeah. You're if you were to be like, oh, I'm gonna try to be healthier and not do any research and just go to the store and look at the things that like look healthy, like that looks healthy, that looks healthy, like you're not going to be that's, you're going to be even more unhealthy probably.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Definitely. I would say checking the ingredients is like the one. If you're going to look at anything on packaging, checking the ingredients is the one
yeah,
thing that you should be doing.
if they
Like,
have
don't
to
worry
put
about the
fancy
nutrition facts or
marketing,
anything like
yeah,
that. Yeah.
if they
Mm-hmm.
have to do all this fancy marketing and fancy labels and all that stuff, like that's a red flag for me.
Yeah, for sure. One thing I will say on the bioengineered ingredients, I've seen it on cheese as well.
Oh
And it
really?
was
Yeah, I
like a
haven't seen
block
it.
of cheese. So it wasn't like a shredded cheese where it had other ingredients, but it was like a piece, like, those little like end cuts of cheeses, and it said contains a bioengineered ingredient. And I was like, this is
Huh,
this is cheese. Like, what is in
I have
here
to start
that is
looking.
bioengineered? Yeah. No, I'm
Yeah,
really curious, what's going down, because those are wholesale packages. Those are like pounds of 50 boxes of produce. It's not like just like one piece that somebody's getting at the grocery store. So it's like you're feeding a lot of people this stuff. So I'm just like curious if that's like something that the wholesale food industry is like trying to push into the restaurants
yeah,
nowadays. Hmm.
yeah, I
Do
don't
you
know, I haven't,
know?
yeah.
Yeah, I'd be curious. I'm going to
I
check back
feel
with
like I'll
you on
start
that.
doing it now.
Yeah. Are you familiar with Bill Gates' appeal produce coding?
A little bit. I
Have you
feel
heard
like
of
I've
that
just
yet?
heard about it, but I haven't dove deep into it.
Yeah, that's something else I'd be curious to see if that's on the produce, because it's for organic, and I don't know if y'all use like organic or commercial, but it's available for both conventional and organic stuff. And Bill Gates came out with this like protective coating that goes on the fruits and vegetables, but there's like
I've
no
definitely
info on
seen
it.
a label that says like, "Oh, this has been treated with blah blah blah." Like you can't pronounce it, and it's like you kind
Oh,
of just look
really?
over it because you're like, "Yeah, I don't know what exactly,"
Yeah,
but it's
yeah.
like, "Oh, it's been treated with this to like prevent." Like I see that on the tomatoes and the apples, on like certain random things. But I'm kind of like,
Hmm.
like I don't know about that.
Right. Yeah. And it's so
Yeah.
hard when you're running a
But it's
restaurant
on
because there's
everything.
no
You can't,
option.
yeah. Yeah, there's no option. It's not like you can tell your produce supplier, like, hey, can you get them treated without? It's like you get what you get. You
Right.
get the
Yeah.
tomatoes, you order tomatoes, you get tomatoes. Like there aren't like options.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, I was just wondering if that was something else that was running through the
Yeah. No,
commercial
I've
side of
definitely seen the
things.
like, oh, treated with this or but it's the same like the same stuff you get in the grocery store. Like sometimes I'll even see
Hmm.
the same boxes that we're getting that they have at the grocery store. It's like all the same stuff. It's just at the grocery store, they take it out of the box and like put it on the shelf, but it's all the same stuff.
Right. Yeah. Do you know if I know you probably order from larger wholesale distributors. Has Cisco or any of the other guys offered anything crazy like lab made meats or anything like
That
that?
has not even that has not even come on the horizon, and you know damn well I'm not like even
No,
gonna
I know. I'm just curious if they're
entertain
like,
the
"Hey,
thought.
we got
Yeah.
this." Like, yeah.
No, they haven't, and I will like tell them absolutely not. Please don't ever show this to me again if they do. Even like we had a Beyond Burger on our menu, at least that's not like lab grown, right? But like it was on our menu, and literally I recently we took it off because like I feel like people are kind of waking up to that. It wasn't selling, which is a good thing. I was like, okay, I feel like people, it's not catching on. Like that's a good thing because we put it on the menu kind of when it was starting, or like before I was even sous chef. Like I was just a line cook when it got put on the menu a few years ago, and I was never into it. I was like, no, like I just won't order it. But I guess, you know, we're a restaurant, we have to sell it. It's going to make us money. We got to sell it, right? But it just didn't sell. It never caught on. So I'm like, that's a good thing. And then we took it off the menu like just now because it just wasn't selling. So I was like, well, I guess that's a good sign. Like it was kind of, maybe it was a trend for a little bit, and now people are actually, a lot of people, like even like all the servers I talked to were like, ew, that was gross anyway. Like I never wanted to sell it. Like, so I was like, okay, that's a good thing that people are waking up to that at least. So I've yet to meet someone who's actually like, ooh, yeah, lab grown meat, that's a good idea. Like every single person is like, that sounds awful. Like no, we're not doing that.
Right. Yeah. Like we already have meat. Why do we need to make more meat? We already have
Yeah,
access to meat.
I've yet to meet someone who's team lab grown meat.
Right. Yeah. Same here. Um, it's definitely pretty weird. And that fake burger patty stuff, that stuff's pretty gross. I was eating plant-based when it like first came out a few years ago. And like I tried it. I actually, I never bought it, but I tried it at a friend's house just like by itself. Like I wanted to see what it actually tasted like on its own, not like with all the burger stuff. And it
Yeah,
was really gross, but and I had
it
never even
is.
bought it before because the ingredients list was so long and it had like
Yeah,
seed oils in
it
there,
was
and I was like,
bad.
I don't like,
Yeah,
even when I was plant-based, I wasn't eating seed oils. So I was like, this is
yeah,
trash. Like, why are they like, why is everybody falling for this?
yeah. It was so gross to work with too. Like I remember I like pulled one up, and I like a raw one to show one of the servers. I was like, look at this. This is the Beyond Burger. And she was like, oh my God, is it rotten? I was like, nope, this is what it looks like. She was like, that's so gross. I was like, it's gross to work with. It had this weird smell. Like they
Oh.
wouldn't so actually we ended up deep frying them because you can't grill them. They'll stick to the grill. Putting them on the
Mm.
flat top. We would sometimes flat top them, but it would take so long. So we ended up just like deep frying them. So it's like, here's someone trying to be healthy, and we're deep frying your Beyond Burger because that's literally the only way to cook it because it's so hard to work with.
That's crazy. Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
That sounds so gross. I never
yeah,
really worked with it like that. I don't think I even cooked it
yeah.
when I tried it.
You had to cook it from frozen. Otherwise it wouldn't keep its shape. Like, because it would come in this frozen like circle, but then as soon as it defrosted, it would just like, like it was so
Ugh,
gross.
that is so
Like, and
gross.
every time, you know, like if you ever worked in the kitchen and like there's an extra order of something for some reason, and all the employees like pounce on it like we're vultures, and we're all so hungry, and we all split it up, with cut a burger into 4 or 5 pieces and eat it. And every time there was like a Beyond Burger left, like no one, it was free, right? Free food, and no one would eat it. Everyone would just look at it and be like, yeah, I'm good. Like,
That's, yeah, that's hilarious. I'm not surprised though. But yeah, I think it's really cool that people are waking up to that and
yeah,
realizing that it is a processed food, and and has all
yeah,
these not so good ingredients, and it's something pretending to be the real thing when like people can just get an actual burger, if they don't.
yeah.
So how important is like have not how important is like the food that you eat at home? Like do you try to do organic and stuff at home? I know you're a big raw milk fan
Oh
as
yeah.
well.
Yeah,
uh,
definitely. It's it's hard because I don't eat that much at home, or I don't cook that much at home because I am at work so much right now. It's like, and I get like an allowance of free food, so it's like, well, I'm not gonna let that go to waste. So I eat most of my food at work. But when I am at home, I definitely like, I'm going to the farmer's market when I can. Like I bought a whole lamb. I have a deep freezer, so I bought like a whole lamb about a year ago. I still have some. I'm always getting like, I got like a cow share, and like, so I always have my like deep freezer full of all that stuff. So when it is a rare day off where I actually want to cook, I can have something. I've been like trying to do breakfast at least because I was like, okay, well, if I eat breakfast before I go to work, then like just sets me up for a better day. Like my day is just 10 times better, like overall, with mood and with what I end up eating throughout the day. Like I'm not distracted, like snacking all day. Like sometimes I don't eat before work because I'm like, well, I'm surrounded by free food. Like, what do I need to eat at home for? But then you're like distracted because you're like, I'm gonna snack on this and a snack on that, and it's not always healthy either. It's just kind of like whatever's in front of you. So I know I was like, okay, well, if I buy some like good quality bacon, and I have a friend at church who sells duck eggs, who like grows them or like raises the ducks, and so I have stuff like that. And then of course my raw milk, I have like almost a quart a day. That's like one of my main energy sources. Is just like raw milk. I'm like, it has everything, and it's quick, it's easy. I don't have to cook it. It's like good like that. And then I try to make like steak tartare at home all the time and like stuff like that. So I feel like I definitely, when I'm at home, I definitely try. But it's like it's possible to eat healthy-ish at work too. Like the only difference is okay, maybe the beef isn't grass fed, but at least like I can eat like a grilled steak with buttery mashed potatoes. Like it's pretty easy to avoid seed oils. Like I feel like restaurants get a bad rap about like especially online, like because I follow a lot of those like seed oil, like anti-seed oil accounts, and a lot of them are just ripping on restaurants. And I'll often leave comments like, "Hey, it's not that hard to like we're not injecting our steaks with seed oils or like making all like our sauce. Like you order butter sauce, it's made of butter. Like we're not like if you order a grilled steak and mashed potatoes and asparagus, like that's a seed oil free meal, and it's on the menu. You don't have to modify it. Like it's not like this crazy thing where we're just making everything out of seed oils. Like, well, it depends on the restaurant. Like, if you are buying pre-made stuff and pre-made sauces, like, then yes, you are gonna be all seed oils. But most restaurants, especially if they're like independently owned, it's pretty easy to work with. Just ask the waiter. It's interesting. I left a comment on this one video where this guy was basically being like, when I go to a restaurant, I tell them I'm allergic to seed oils. This is no, he said, this is what he said. He said, I have a hack. Here's a number one health hack. When I go to restaurants, I tell them I'm allergic to seed oils and can you please cook my meal in butter? And I know it's being annoying, but health, like I put my health first. And like all these restaurant workers were ripping apart, even Drew Talbert, who's this massive
Oh, yeah, I
restaurant.
love his
Yeah,
stuff.
he
He's
was
so
in the
funny.
comments. He was in the comments of that video. I was in the comments of that
Oh my
video.
gosh.
Drew said something like, on behalf of every restaurant worker, piss off or something. And then I left a really long comment saying, like, don't say you have an allergy if you don't actually have an allergy. It's a huge pain in the butt for us. Like, tell us you don't like something or you don't want a certain ingredient. We'll omit it for you. We won't put it in the dish. But when you say allergy, we have to change your tongs and change your gloves and change your cutting board and like do all this stuff because you said allergy when you just don't like that ingredient. And it's if you have an allergy, that's fine, we'll do that. But it's just a pain when everyone starts to do that and like and then I was like, it was actually pretty easy to get a seed oil free meal. Like just work with your waiter and ask what is normally like get something grilled, get a burger, like that's seed oil free. Like it's you get it without mayo, then that's a seed oil free meal right there. Like it's like we're not just lacing everything with seed oils. Like just stay away from the mayonnaise, stay away from the salad dressing, stay away from anything deep fried, and then you should be good. Like
Yeah, pretty much. But a lot of people, they'll use that oil blend, so you'll have to like watch out. But as far as just
yeah,
like saying, you can just be honest and tell your server like, I don't want seed oils. Like you can even say
yeah,
like I'm sensitive to seed oils. Like, but the word allergic, like yeah, it's a whole
yeah,
different meaning in restaurants. And
yeah,
people don't understand that if they haven't ever worked in a restaurant, they don't understand like
yeah,
the difference between an allergy or something you just don't want to eat when you're running
yeah,
in in the kitchen. Like it's a whole thing, and like sometimes you got to wash the pan and like change your
yeah.
gloves out, like you said. It's like a whole situation if
Oh
you're
yeah,
allergic.
yeah. So a lot of it was funny reading all those comments on that video because this guy was so like full of himself, like, yeah, I have a hack.
I figured it out,
Just tell
guys.
them you're allergic, and they won't put. It's like in all these restaurant workers. Like it was so funny seeing Drew Talbert in the comments there. I was like, the king of restaurant workers has spoken. Like you listen to him.
Right, yeah. Yeah, seriously. That's so funny. So it has is there like a have you found a way to eat, like, because you have long hours and you only have a couple days off a week, and when you're working you're in the kitchen long hours, have you figured out like a sustainable way of eating, or I know you said you're trying to incorporate more breakfast now.
Yeah, I've been trying, but a lot of time recently I've just been having to go into work really early and I get off really late, so I don't wake up early. So it's kind of this catch 22 of like, but I am, if I do wake up in time, I try to like make it a point. I'm like, if I eat breakfast before work, my day is 10 times better. Like it just is. So that's kind of one thing. But even if I don't have time for breakfast, I have my raw milk with collagen powder and raw honey. And like, I'm like, at least that's like, it's a few hundred calories. It's got fat, protein, carbohydrates. It's like, it's something. Like it's not the best breakfast, but it's better than nothing. So that's definitely
Yeah.
like I always have my raw milk like every day. If I run out of raw milk, it's like the end of the world. I'm like, oh my gosh, I ran out of raw milk. What am I gonna
Oh,
do? Like
I need
there
to
was a
eat.
shortage for a couple weeks because like,
Oh
and
no.
I can't even just drink regular milk because of that. Like when it's raw, it's that enzyme that helps you digest
Hmm.
it. So it's like the regular milk. Like I can't just like, oh, I'll just buy regular milk for now. It's like, no, it has to be the raw milk. Because there was like some recall, a voluntary recall. I don't even
Oh,
understand why, but like for 2 weeks I didn't have it, and it was really, really sad. And I was really happy when they got it back. So
yeah,
definitely for
I
me,
bet.
like, yeah, between the raw milk and like when I can doing the egg steak or not steak, like sausage or bacon and egg breakfast, and then when I'm at work, just being intentional about like taking a break to like actually eat something instead of like then you're just like picking all day. You're like, ooh, bit of this, bit of that, bit of this, bit of that, and you're like you're always kind of like distracted. I feel like versus if I'm like, okay, I'm gonna take a break and I'm gonna eat something that's actually a meal. And there's some like healthy options like where I work, like you can get like a salmon sandwich or like even like a burger is to me like that's healthy because it's like oh it's protein it's I mean it's just meat we're not adding anything to our burgers besides meat like just kind of staying away from the fryer or anything like that.
Right. Yeah. No, I make that drink a lot too. With just like the collagen. I like to blend an egg in mine too, like a raw
I've done
egg,
that before, yeah. I've been
or
trying
just
to
the
do
egg
that.
yolk too makes it really
Yeah.
nice, kind of like eggnoggy.
Okay, yeah. I did that once, but I want to keep doing that. Just like I need to make sure I blend it with an actual blender because I'm just
Yes,
the
yes,
texture
absolutely. It needs to be
of the yolk
blended.
is
There is
or not
no
the yolk,
other
the
way.
white. Yeah. Yeah, if
Yeah.
I do a smoothie, sometimes I do smoothies and I'll definitely always put an egg in the smoothie. I'm like my smoothies are hilarious. They're raw egg, raw milk, raw honey. It's like if I told anyone at work what was in my smoothie, they would think I'm crazy, but it just
Oh
looks
my
like I'm
gosh.
drinking a it just looks like I'm drinking a smoothie. But
Right. No, I make that all the time, and I don't know if you've tried the Equip Foods beef protein.
no, I
But
haven't.
it's so good. Like, and especially like if people are sensitive to whey protein, this is a really good alternative, but it's literally made from beef. And so it's like
Okay.
dairy free, and the vanilla is my favorite. I love the vanilla flavor. But they have like chocolate, salted caramel, strawberry, and I think even like an iced coffee flavor now, and peanut butter. So they have like a bunch of different flavors, and an
Yeah.
unflavored one too. They are all sweetened with stevia. I don't know how you feel about stevia. I know some people like
I
hate
feel
it,
like
some
stevia's
people like it.
unavoidable. I feel like
Really?
I think some people talk about like, oh, stevia is bad for you. So I was like, maybe if I was having stomach problems, I would think about it more. But I was like, I feel fine. Like, because I have a lot of stevia between like my electrolyte drinks and like the collagen powder. And like, it's just in, if I was to also cut out stevia, I feel like I'd be very limited in my options. Like I try to, if I sweeten things, I use raw honey, but like, it's kind of like those pre-made things, like the electrolyte drinks, the collagen powders, like the vitamin C drink, like they're kind of just in all that. So I'm like, okay, I understand what people are saying about stevia, but it's still better than like Splenda or like
Yeah, for
it's
sure.
not
Corn
the
syrup.
worst thing. It's like at some point you can't think about everything. Like you can't be like, well, so and so said this is bad and so you have to like pick your battles almost like okay, like seed oils are pretty bad, so I'm gonna try to avoid them, but like if I'm at work and there's a piece of fried chicken and I want to eat it and I'm going to enjoy it, I'm going to eat it. Like
Right.
I'm not going to obsess over it, you know? Like there's this, I definitely see a lot of that on online, like on the Instagram space, because I am kind of in that health, the algorithm showing me all this like health kind of stuff on Instagram and all these, a lot of people are like, I feel like the stress and the overthinking that comes with some of these things is like, if you really sat there and thought about every single thing, like it would be worse for you than just eating the damn thing. Like,
Right,
yeah,
yeah. Yeah, for sure. I used to be pretty strict with it, but over the years, I just like the same thing, just kind of like if I'm out to eat, like I'm not going to order something deep fried, but I might get like
yeah,
a side of ranch with whatever, or like eat the mayo. Uh,
yeah,
little things like that. Like I try not to get like a whole seed oil dish. And,
yeah,
and obviously I love to try it because I live a little outside of Austin. So there's, sometimes you can find a seed oil free restaurant. Like there's a few in town. And so those are always fun to try, like the beef fat fries and things like that. Those are always
yeah,
good. But I'll still get like the aioli, which I know it's that canola blend that they
yeah,
that they use for
yeah.
the. So it's all about balance and
Yeah,
not
I feel
being
like
like
you can't obsess. Like I was even seeing these things online of like, and there's people that I've unfollowed because like they're kind of that obsessive, like not a single drop, not a single drop of seed oil, like not, and it's like, come on, like it's all about the balance. Like it's, you balance it out with the other omega 3s or whatever, and like you try to avoid it in your daily life. And like at home, you're not gonna find any seed oils in like my home pantry, but it's like, okay, if I'm at work and I'm not gonna obsess over the teaspoon that I use to saute the whatever, like it's, I'm just not, like it's not gonna,
right.
it's not like it's an allergy where it's like not a single drop. That's the difference between like an allergy and just like, oh, I'm trying to avoid this.
Yeah, it's totally different if you do have an allergy. If you do have an allergy, we're not saying to allow small amounts.
Yeah,
We don't want you to hurt yourselves out there. So if y'all do have an allergy, I don't even know if that's a thing, but if it is, we're not saying to just go ahead and eat seed oils. So full disclaimer there, guys. Um, so I know like in a lot of your memes, you share like some of the like the kind of the toxic traits and part of the toxic stuff that goes on in kitchen.
yeah.
Is there one of the like, do you have like a favorite like guilty pleasure toxic trait that goes in the kitchen? Like for me, I've worked in kitchens and restaurants, the front of house and back of house since I was 12 years old. So I have like 20 years of working in kitchens, and I did take like a year like culinary school like degree. It wasn't like a full legit thing. It was just like a 1 year kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I've been in restaurants since I was like 12 years old and just always worked in restaurants up until like a couple years ago. My favorite part was the trash talking. I just thought it was, because it is mostly guys, and
Yeah,
it's
it
just
is.
like we like nowadays we live in a different world where people are like so sensitive to
Yeah.
words. And
Yeah.
so like that's one part that I really enjoyed in the kitchen, is just like trash talking with the guys and them not getting like butthurt about it.
Yeah. I feel like there's still some of that though. Like I think there's a balance to where it's like there's like, okay, there's like harassment and actually
Yes, yeah.
feeling like you're
For sure.
being picked on or whatever, versus like the jokes and the like me asking the guys if they're on their period all the time. Like I feel like that's I love the kitchen because it's just kind of, you can make those kinds of jokes and like they'll laugh and you'll laugh, and it's definitely like, there's, I don't think it's like really like Kitchen Confidential kind of status. Like if you read Kitchen Confidential, I feel like that was kind of a whole nother era, that I don't know if I would have felt comfortable in. But I enjoy reading that and like kind of seeing like the kitchen is kind of the only place where like that kind of stuff is like, where else are you going to work where it's like you can just crack jokes all day and like, you know, and it's, of course there is a line to where it, and it's really up to the person that's being joked at, or up to you. But it's like, there's definitely, it's no fun to say, oh no, no references to anything sexual or anything like dirty, or
Right.
it's like you're in a kitchen, like you're gonna you're gonna have your jokes, but as long as no one's specifically saying that they're feeling uncomfortable, like then we're all good.
Right. And I feel like if it does get to that point, usually like the person will speak up that was made
Yeah,
uncomfortable.
hopefully, and you
Like,
want people to feel like they can, like you don't want them to feel like, oh, like then I'm weak if I tell them to stop. Like definitely we give everyone that spiel when they first start, like, hey, like if you feel uncomfortable, say something and make sure like you're not supposed to just sit here and be uncomfortable with what so and so said. Like we'll take that seriously. So yeah, it's
right, for
all
sure.
about a
That's
balance.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah, that was one part that I missed. I thought that was really fun. But yeah, I definitely agree. It can get a little carried away in certain situations. And that's good that your company had that conversation with people, before they work there,
Yeah.
because people need to realize, that it's okay to come out with that, because they want you to work there, and they don't want
Yeah.
like something bad
Yeah.
to just build up inside, and then you just blow up and quit on them, because that is
Yeah,
the
exactly.
last thing any kitchen ever needs to happen,
Yeah.
is for somebody to just
Yeah.
quit on the spot.
Yeah.
So I want to ask, I have a few more questions. What is an experience that you've had with like one of your most difficult customers, in all the
Difficult
years that you've worked in the
customers.
kitchens?
Yeah. See, I don't go face to face with the customers that much, which is good. I feel like
Right.
I hear the stories from the servers about like people just being in a bad mood over like nothing and like taking it out on their server, and that's not like you guys can keep your tips. Like I'm not dealing with that. Like I don't know if I could deal with that. Man, there's just been a lot. Like someone reported us to the business bureau because she didn't like our burger or something like that. Like
Oh my
this was just
gosh.
something recently. Like she straight up like reported us, and like obviously the case went nowhere because she didn't have a case. Like she just didn't like her burger. But like it was something like the Better Business Bureau, or I don't even know what it was. It was the first time I'd ever heard of it. But she like filed a report. I was like, who does that? Like
That is
just tell
like,
them you didn't like your burger. We'll comp it. We'll make you another one. Like we'll give you something
right.
else. Like I don't understand some people like who is like, oh, I'm gonna report this business like because I didn't like my burger. It's like really like
Right.
I don't understand it at all. Then there's
Yeah,
been
and
other similar things where
it's
I
just
just
like
don't
that. They just
understand.
like
You don't
yeah,
understand people like the lengths that they go to complain. Like it wasn't enough to leave a Yelp review. Like you had to report us. Like
right. Yeah. That's another thing, I guess it can kind of go along like as a tip for customers. Like again, just be honest. Like
yeah,
if your food comes out and you don't really like it, just tell your server like, "Hey, I really don't like this," or "It's not cooked the way that I wanted,"
yeah.
or "I thought
Try to
this
be
was going to be a
specific.
different
Like yeah,
way," like, and like yeah,
yeah,
just like be honest. Especially if you're in a nicer restaurant, like,
yeah,
you're already paying good money for your food, like and the restaurant wants to make sure that the customer is happy,
yeah,
because they don't want somebody to report them to the Better Business Bureau or leave a bad
yeah.
review. Like
Yeah. Well, like
like
be
the
specific too. Like I've had plenty of servers come back. And this is the worst thing about being a cook. Like the server comes back and they just said this was awful. And I'm like, okay, like do they want another one? Like do they want me to remake it? Like what was wrong with it? They just said it was awful. I was like, tell me
they just
what
said it
was
was
wrong with
awful and
it.
you walked away, or what? Like what
Like
happened?
tell me if I like can I fix it? Can I not? What did they just not like the dish? Like, is it anything to do with me? Is it anything to do with the way I cooked it, or do they just not like seafood and they ordered the fish? Like,
Right.
help me understand this. Like, don't just say it was awful. Like, try to tell us like if your steak was overcooked, like that's something we can fix. Like that's something we could. It's like a tangible piece of feedback. Or if it's like, oh, it's under seasoned or it's too salty, or it's like something that we can write. But when you're just like, it was awful, it's like okay. Like I had a table like that recently where like and then I even like tasted the food that came back and I was like, this is exactly how it should be. Like I don't know what you're talking about. Like every single person at this table was like, they just said the food was awful. Like then they didn't have anything specific to say. I was like, well, they're just haters. Like I don't understand these people.
Yeah, and I'm sure you've learned over the years, like, that's gonna happen. You're gonna get people like that. You're
It
gonna get
just is.
haters no matter
Yeah.
what, like, and especially in the service industry, like, it is a part of the job. Like, it is
Yeah.
unavoidable.
Yeah.
So
You're
for
just
people
serving
out
so
there
many people. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So for people out there working in the kitchen or like you just starting running a kitchen and you're coming out with dishes, like you are gonna get bad reviews. Don't like get upset over that. It's a part of the job. And
Yeah.
you're just gonna have haters. Like haters are gonna hate, can't avoid it. And
Yeah.
you just have to be confident in the work that you put out because like you said, like
Yeah.
you tasted it and you're like, that's what it's supposed to taste like. Like I did it
Yeah.
how I
Like
did
I
it.
could say that with
Like
confidence, like this tastes how it should. Like, and
right,
I've
yeah.
sent out 10 other of these today and people liked them. So you have to just have confidence in your own ability. Like, and that's why like tasting your food as you go is so important. Cause like if you didn't taste it, then you don't know versus when you taste it and you're like, that's good. Like then you can have that confidence. Like this is what I'm serving. I tasted it. It's good.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. About how many spoons do you have in your pocket at all times at the kitchen?
We're always running out.
Yeah.
Like we have our silverware station and it's right next to the line and we're always running out. So we'll taste with like the back of a fork or like, but I show everyone that like taste, salt, taste again, salt it if you
hmm
need, taste it again. Like that's how, don't just follow a recipe on how much salt to put, like taste it, salt it, taste it, salt it. Like half the time it's just salt. Like if something's like, just feels like it's missing something, it's usually salt.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And I think that's very true. Like a lot of people under season things that aren't familiar with working in the kitchen because they're just too
Yeah.
scared to put too much, which also
Yeah.
is a really bad problem. You can't always take it out or
Yeah.
add to it to fix the saltiness. But yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's usually an easy fix. Like if it doesn't have much flavor, just add more salt, maybe some pepper.
Yeah. Like if you
Yeah.
put all the other ingredients in and you can't really taste them, like I don't really taste the garlic and I don't taste the spices that I put in there and I don't taste the herbs that I put in there. It's like the salt will bring all of that out. That's probably like number one cooking tip. Like if you're shaking it in a shaker, you're not gonna get enough.
Yeah,
You gotta have it in
exactly.
like a ramekin and like pinch the salt out. Otherwise you're definitely not putting enough.
Yeah, for sure. And I know you use the good stuff, the Redmond salt at
Yeah.
home. Do y'all
Yeah.
use that in the kitchen that you work at too?
No, we have like diamond kosher or diamond crystal kosher, which is it's also pretty good. Like it
And
definitely
have
matters which salt you're using.
right, have you noticed like a big difference in the flavor between the two? Like the kosher's more saltier and
Yeah, so
stronger than
kosher
the
or the
Redmond?
iodized is definitely
hmm
it's saltier, but it has this like kind of weird taste to it that's not like when you salt with the kosher salt, it brings out the flavors of everything versus iodized salt because the granules are smaller too. You're getting more saltiness per teaspoon or per pinch or whatever. So it's just harder to gauge how much salt to put when you're switching between. We don't even have iodized salt like in the kitchen. Like it's always kosher. The big flaky stuff, and
hmm
then but the iodized just has that like taste, like that salt taste to it. Like it'll make your dish like taste like salt, which isn't good. You want the salt to be bringing out the other flavors in the dish. So that's why I
Right.
always say like don't use iodized, use kosher salt. Iodized is like for those table shakers, like they're just for show. Like just use the real stuff that'll really elevate your cooking and use enough of it.
Yeah, for sure. My experience, like I've noticed like the sea salt and like the kosher salt stuff just has a salt, like a stronger salty flavor than the Redmond real salt.
Yeah.
Like I feel like the Redmond is a lot more like softer and you need
Yeah,
more
definitely.
for that salty flavor when using Redmonds at
Yeah.
home.
Yeah.
Because I know I've done some posted some recipes and I always use Redmond salt, but maybe I didn't write it like what kind in the ingredients. And
Yeah.
some people would be like, "Oh, this was really salty," and I was like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah, it
So maybe
matters
it was this.
what
Like I
kind of
never thought
salt.
about like, "Oh, what kind of salt are you?" Because Redmond is not the
Yeah.
same like as
Yeah.
iodized salt as far as flavor goes.
Oh yeah. Definitely not the same. That's why every recipe don't if it tells you how much salt to put, like don't follow that. Like you have to salt the taste and use your 10 teaspoons, like taste it, salt
Yeah.
it, taste it. Like you're not going to be following a recipe and putting you don't know what salt they use. Even if they tell you what salt they use, like you still should
hmm
taste it.
Right. Yeah. So do you have like a top three different dishes that you've made in the kitchen where you're currently working?
Yeah, so I have one I just put on the menu, braised short rib with that layered potato.
Oh,
It
I
was
saw
like
the
really
picture that you posted
popular.
of that, like
It
the
was really
TikTok potato
popular
thing.
on TikTok. Yeah, the
Yeah,
TikTok potato. So that with like a braised short rib, um, and like baby carrots and cauliflower. That's probably one of my best dishes. Like that's the first entree that I put on the menu. Like it's straight up on the
nice.
menu. It's really cool, like seeing it, opening our big menus and being like, oh my God, it's there. Like, so that's been really cool. And like watching other cooks, having to train other cooks to plate it and like seeing a bunch of them in the window at the same time. That's a really cool feeling. So that's definitely one that I've done recently that I'm proud of. And then I ran like a Wagyu hanger steak special, which is also really good. Like so many people had really good feedback. A lot of the servers got it and were like, "Oh my God, this is amazing." I did it with like a butternut squash risotto, but it had so many herbs in it. Like I did like rosemary, sage, thyme, porcini mushrooms, butternut squash, like sauteed all that and then put the risotto in and all that. So that one was, and then I did bone marrow butter with that. So it was like a compound
Mm.
butter with bone marrow. I feel like I'm slowly sneaking my like health superfoods into the menu at work.
No,
That's
that's
kind of been
awesome.
my goal. Like ever since I started like taking over specials and potential menu things, I'm like thinking of the foods that I really like to eat that I try to prioritize in my diet. Like we're running an oyster special soon because I'm like I really like oysters, like, and they're really healthy. So it's like
Yeah,
trying to, and it's like I feel like because health food has this perception of like it's like health food. It's like obviously it's not gonna taste good. It's gonna be like the thing I don't want to order. But it's like, no, we're gonna have this like Wagyu steak with the bone marrow butter and the butternut squash risotto and like the black garlic and all that stuff. And it's like, so it's got these health superfoods in it, but it's also like really, really good. So I feel like
right.
that, yeah, that I feel like is kind of what I'm my goal with cooking, or like almost like my specialty is like, okay, you see all these like health influencers on Instagram, but they're not chefs. Like they don't really know how to really make things good. Like what they're showing you kind of like what's healthy and showing you their like concoctions and how they incorporate into their diet. But I'm like, okay, how can I really like make an elevated restaurant dish with bone marrow butter and like oysters and even like organ meats and things like that. Still
Yeah.
have yet to sneak liver into a dish at work, but that's my next goal.
Yeah, no, exactly. And, because you'll see all the influencers, they're like, oh, I got my steak with my roasted sweet potato, like, boom, here's your meal with a
Yeah,
stick of butter on top. It's like,
yeah,
but you
and
could,
it's yeah,
you can be a little more creative than that.
yeah,
And I think a lot of people, they might go to eating this kind of way because it's just so simple and
it's
stuff.
simple. Yeah,
But when you're going out to a restaurant, like it's an experience,
yeah. You want
that's
it
why
to
you're
look
going
good.
out.
You want
And
stuff
yes.
that takes effort. Like you want stuff that you don't know how to cook at home. So
Yeah, exactly. You're going out to, eat something special. And I think that's really great that you're sneaking in the foods. I always like to do that with stuff that I make for like potlucks and like going to my friends and like family dinners and
yeah,
stuff like that. Like I like to bring a dessert and I'll use like that beef protein in there, like just to
yeah,
sneak be like, like because usually desserts are vegetarian. And so I'm like,
yeah,
I want to like sneak some beef into the dessert and like no one's gonna
yeah,
know. Like, so I like to like sneak health foods in that kind of way too. But I think that's really great, and a lot of like high-end restaurants do that stuff also, like
oh
the bone
yeah,
marrow, and like the liver, like in patés, especially, like that's a really
yeah,
like elegant
definitely.
dish. And so it's, and then you're able to make more money as for the restaurant as well, because it is a
Yeah,
higher end, like it's like, oh, this is like there's only one liver on the whole cow. It's not like all over, and there's only one beef heart, it's like kind of limited cuts on the animal, so it's like a
yeah,
very special thing. And it's not something that you can just go out and get, like, like
yeah, yeah.
even
I
here in
made a
Austin. Go
beef
ahead.
heart tartare at home.
Mm.
I was like, I don't know if that would sell at work. Like, it's one of those things where you're kind of pushing those limits of like, how much I want to run a beef heart tartare special at work, but like you have to balance. That's why it's all about balance. Like I might really enjoy that, but it's the owner's money that you're using to buy these ingredients, and like you can't just be running whatever the heck you want. Like if I suggested putting beef heart tartare as a special, like I might get fired on the spot.
I don't know, maybe
It's
like
like
something like a special thing like a
yeah,
Valentine's thing, you know?
yeah,
Like
I
if
know.
you
I'm
did
like,
like a special Valentine's menu, I think beef heart
yeah,
tartare, people would be like, "Oh, that's kind of cool sound," because they're like
yeah,
already in like the heart mindset on Valentine's Day.
yeah. I mean, I did do a regular steak tartare with just like our filet trimmings, and it was really good, but it didn't sell because that's you just have to learn your
Oh, really? And
clientele. Like
yeah, I
it
was
was
gonna ask, where are you located?
I'm in California and I'm in like a small town, so it's like I feel like if you're in a city, because there's more
Mm,
people in the city, there's more of that pool to pull from. It's like, yeah, you're gonna get more people who are looking for steak tartare versus up here. It's kind of like it's kind of that small town, like I feel like
gotcha.
not sheltered, but kind of like sheltered where it's like you're
Like they
not
just
like
want the
if you were
steak
to
and
look for
potatoes, like
exactly like yeah, like they want elevated food, but they're not gonna try your like I don't know. It's a special kind of people that are actually like actively like looking for steak tartare. And
yeah,
it's
no,
like
for
at
sure.
the because I ran it over a holiday weekend and it was really good. Like I tasted
Mm.
it, the servers tasted it, like everyone was like, "This is really good steak tartare." And then I even did it was like cold smoked with like capers and
Oh,
like
yum.
everything and like an egg yolk on top and like
Hmm.
and all that stuff. And it looked really nice and it had microgreens and like and I think we sold like three. And of course you can't
Oh my
just keep
gosh.
selling it. You can't
Yeah.
keep selling it day after day. Like you had to I had to end up like after a few days I had to cook all of it into family meal.
Yeah,
So it's
no,
kind
I'm
of like
sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's like one of those things where you're like, no, I'm not allowed to run it again because it just didn't sell. But I don't
Yeah.
know,
No.
maybe a Valentine's if I could bring it back for Valentine's or something, or just prep less of it so it's not so much waste. I
Right. I don't
definitely feel
know.
like
Yeah,
yeah,
you have a good point though, like with your location, like if it's a smaller town, it just seems like it's
yeah,
not that kind of crowd, like to be
yeah,
trying the
yeah,
raw meat stuff. Like
yeah. But in do you follow Raw Meat Experiment?
I did, or I probably do, but I don't like see his stuff on my feed really
I see his
anymore.
stuff all the time because I'm always interacting with it, but I feel like
Oh,
his
really?
his content has like influenced me a ton. Like I'm trying to eat more raw meat. I'll find myself being like, "Oh, it's my day off. I'm gonna make steak tartare," and I was like, I've been influenced by this guy. Like raw meat is a superfood. Like meat always like
Yeah.
I don't think I'm ever gonna do like chicken, but like
Mm-mm.
raw beef
No.
and like and raw milk and all that stuff and raw eggs and
Yes.
it's
Yeah,
really
I'm
kind
all
of
about
opened my
that.
mind. Like, and I did a scallop crudo special as well at work. That was also really cool. It sold a little bit, but we were also running like a cooked scallop dish on the side, so
Oh, I see. Yeah.
it wouldn't have been a waste to like prep all the stuff for the scallop crudo when it's like okay, but then we're also using scallops, and so it's kind of like okay, that was cool. We sold a few of those, and it was really good. Like I liked it more than the cooked scallops. It's funny
Oh,
because
really?
whenever we prep scallops at work, like I'll always just like just eat
I
one
know,
raw, and
right?
everyone's like, "What the heck?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's really good. It's better than cooked scallops."
Nice. Yeah, I tend to eat more raw meat during the summertime, like when it's hot, it's just
Yeah,
like meat, just a cold meat salad like.
yeah, yeah,
But I love balsamic pickles. Like usually I don't really have like vegetables in my house, but pickles is one that I usually have. So I'll just do like pickles, Dijon, and I have like a really thick balsamic that I get from a local place here, and that's pretty much it. Like salt, pepper, the egg yolk, of
yeah.
course. Do you have like a go-to tartare? Do you always do like different stuff? Can you hear me?
What was that?
Oh, do you have like a go-to mixture of stuff that you add into your tartare, or do you usually
Yeah, I'll
make a
do
different?
like capers, cornichons. What else? Like shallots, pine nuts, Dijon. What else is in it? Those are the main ones. I do like a whole grain mustard, and Parmesan flakes.
Oh, that sounds so good.
Yeah,
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 that's a whole meal for sure.
yeah, definitely.
Um, So I want to thank you so much for coming on. This was so much fun. And could you let people know where they can find you and also where they can get your book as well?
Yeah, so you can find me mostly on Instagram at Lady Line Cook. I'm also ladylinecook.com is where you can find books, merch, stickers. The book is kind of a kitchen memoir, but also about working in different male dominated fields. The title is Nice Work Boys because that's what people would always say to me while I was working in the ski industry and in restaurant kitchens. So it's kind of a blend of both. It starts off in the ski industry and then moves on to like my beginning in the kitchen. So yeah, it's just a memoir with like a bunch of stories. You get to meet all the characters. Like I feel like a lot of people have told me it's just a very fun read with little leadership tips like sprinkled throughout and like life lessons just like sprinkled throughout all the stories. But it's definitely a good book for anyone who's like at the very beginning stages of getting a leadership position at work, in any field really. Just like learning how to lead like from scratch. So that's what the book's about. So that's all at ladylinecook.com. I'm also on Twitter at the Lady Line Cook. I post occasionally, and then I recently joined TikTok reluctantly at Lady Sous Chef. So
Lady Sous Chef, nice. How is TikTok going for you so far?
it didn't blow up like I thought it would, like, because I thought it would be really easy because I already had all the videos and I just had to like post them. And I thought a lot of people would come over from Instagram, but they totally did not. I find the
Oh,
followings are, I only have like 800 followers. And I thought I would blow up right off the bat because I had 50,000 on Instagram when I started on TikTok. So I was like, cool, this will be easy. I'll start and I'll immediately have 10,000 followers because they'll just come over from Instagram. But I feel like no one actually came over from Instagram, which is interesting because like every follower I've gained on TikTok has been from like they're only on TikTok. So it's like these kind of two different worlds. But I'm not really a fan so far. It's not very personal. But anyway, you can
mm.
find me there though. I'm there.
Okay.
I
Yeah, I
was
don't have a
very
TikTok. I'm just
I was
curious.
very reluctant about it because I turned off all of my privacy settings. Like I was like, you don't have access to my camera, you don't have access to my photo library, not my microphone, not my contacts, nothing,
Right.
nothing, nothing, no, like zero. Like, yeah, it's definitely it was kind of it's a weird world out there.
Yeah, I can imagine. I have a feeling that the people that are on TikTok, especially TikTok only, are like a different kind of people compared to the other social media
Oh
platforms.
yeah, it's totally different. I feel like it's less personal. Like on Instagram, I'm
Mm,
always having conversations in the DMs with people like about maybe something I posted or they're coming to me with advice about the kitchen or they're just in my DMs to like tell me a kitchen story, a story that happened today or like it's very personal and I'll recognize people like the same people DMing me like it's almost like we're online friends. And it's like I have a lot of people whose like usernames I recognize and stuff like that. But on TikTok it's like they're it's almost like they're bots. It's like they're so I have like I don't know any of these people. It's like
yeah,
just so
they're just
weird.
like
It's kind
NPCs.
of yeah, almost. Yeah, they are. It's like you wonder if how many of them are like actually real accounts and how many are just bots.
Right, or how many are just living zombies? Like,
Yeah, or they're just because you're watching like I've watched other people scroll through TikTok and it's like they're not watching the videos.
oh wow, oh
I'm
my
like, what?
gosh.
It's like it's so crazy to watch because it's like you're literally not watching anything. Like you're seeing the first half second of all these like and that counts as a view. So like I might get 2 million views on TikTok, but they're not really views. Like half the people didn't watch the video. Where Instagram it can like actually show you the retention. I'm like, oh, if I post a 1 minute long video, like most of the people are actually watching the whole video, which is cool because a minute is like a really long video apparently.
Yeah, it really is. That's something I've
Yeah.
learned. Like, people have really short attention spans no matter what
Oh yeah.
platform. You know,
It's
like a
crazy.
minute is like the
Yeah.
longest.
A minute is a long like I'll say like, oh yeah, I'm making more long form content. I made a video that was a minute and a half and like it's crazy thinking like I used to make cooking videos like when I was a teenager and it would be like 7 or 8 minutes. And like now I'm like, oh, I made a minute video and it's a long video. I need to cut my videos shorter because people aren't watching to the end. And it's just like our brain chemistry has changed like
Right.
over
Yeah,
the
and
last few
I
years. Yeah.
even
Even
like
my own
making
brain. Yeah. I'll
yeah,
notice
no,
like if
same.
someone doesn't
Yeah.
get to the point Like if someone is taking 10 seconds to get to the point of the video, like I'm scrolling past.
Right. Like I'm
Like
here to, I need the facts now. Like,
yeah. And I catch that in myself. I'm like, okay, I gave you 5 seconds. You still haven't gotten to the point. Like I'm done. Like
right. Yeah. No, it's so true. And like, even like with my like these live streams, they're usually like around an hour long.
yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know how, like, I know there's a group of people out there that still watch long form content, like actual
Yeah.
long form content.
Yeah.
But yeah, sometimes I think like maybe I should do like some smaller, like less than 10 minutes videos, just like tips and tricks or something like that or whatever. But
Yeah, definitely. It's about having
um,
a mix, like, because I have my lives too, which are usually like an hour, but I feel like lives are cool because a lot of people just kind of hop on and hop off and like kind of catch you at certain times and will like catch a certain part of the conversation. So like that's kind of how I see lives, where it's like I doubt anyone's sitting there for an hour listening to the whole thing. Versus podcasts are different because like you can use your phone for like other things or like do the
right, and you can
dishes or
speed up the
whatever.
sound, like speed
Yeah,
it up too.
exactly.
Like,
So
yeah.
like I like podcasts, but Instagram lives are like you can't use your phone while you're watching Instagram live, so it's kind of like
Oh, that's true.
I doubt anyone's like sitting there and watching it for an hour, which I get. So that's why it's like if I'm ever on a live by myself, I'll be like, oh, by the way, we're talking about this. Like, kind of give these like, if you just joined, like,
Right. Yeah.
this
No,
is the
that's
context.
yeah.
Like, yeah,
Yeah, that's a good tip. I'm still learning how to do all this stuff and like little things like that that I should say every now and then.
yeah,
But yeah, it's a lot of work to do all of this stuff, and like remember all those little things to say and stuff like that. But it's a learning
yeah,
process.
yeah, definitely. It's definitely you kind of have to find your own style because like you kind of see these Instagram tips and tricks and hacks, but it's like I don't really like some of that's useful, but a lot of it's like no, you just gotta find your own style.
Yeah.
Like people say, oh, these are hooks to start your video. I'm like, but if you don't feel natural saying that, then don't use it. Like,
Right. And then sometimes it's still
yeah,
hard to tie to your niche, like with some of those
yeah,
hooks. Like
exactly.
it's like I can't really use that.
Yeah, yeah,
So
exactly.
cool. Well, thanks again for coming on. I really appreciate it. That was so much fun. I will share well, I sent you the YouTube link, but it'll also be on Spotify as well later today. So people can listen to it in a podcast form. And thanks again so much for coming on. I just want to give a shout out to my sponsor real quick, Wise Wolf Gold and Silver, their subscription service, Wolfpack. You can check my link at yecca.gold to support me and support my sponsor. Thanks again, guys. See y'all next time.